Do we want to wait for a few more people to join, or?
I think we can start.
Yeah, I think we can start.
All right. Okay. So assalamu alaikum to everyone. This is Gazina Hussein. On behalf of APSA Network, we will actually be beginning today's event with Quran recitation for 15 minutes by Brother Muhammad Raza, and then I will hand the program over to Virginia Tech University to host the rest of the program. So if we can have Brother Muhammad Raza come to recite Quran.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters.
Wa alaikum salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما من دابة في الأرض إلا على الله رزقها ويعلم مستقرها ومستودعها كل في كتاب مبين. وهو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام وكان عرشه على الماء ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. ولئن قلت إنكم مبعوثون من بعد الموت ليقولن الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين. ولئن أخرنا عنهم العذاب إلى أمة معدودة ليقولن ما يحبسه ألا يوم يأتيهم ليس مصروفا عنهم وحاق بهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون. ولئن أذقنا الإنسان منا رحمة ثم نزعناها منه إنه ليئوس كفور. ولئن أذقناه نعماء بعد ضراء مسته ليقولن ذهب السيئات عني إنه لفرح فخور. إلا الذين صبروا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. فلعلك تارك بعض ما يوحى إليك وضائق به صدرك أن يقولوا لولا أنزل عليه كنز أو جاء معه ملك إنما أنت نذير والله على كل شيء وكيل. أم يقولون افتراه قل فأتوا ب10 سور مثله مفتريات وادعوا من استطعتم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. فإن لم يستجيبوا لكم فاعلموا أنما أنزل بعلم الله وأن لا إله إلا هو فهل أنتم مسلمون. من كان يريد الحياة الدنيا وزينتها نوفي إليهم أعمالهم فيها وهم فيها لا يبخسون. أولئك الذين ليس لهم في الآخرة إلا النار وحبط ما صنعوا فيها وباطل ما كانوا يعملون. أفمن كان على بينة من ربه ويتلوه شاهد منه ومن قبله كتاب موسى إماما ورحمة أولئك يؤمنون به ومن يكفر به من الأحزاب فالنار موعده فلا تك في مرية منه إنه الحق من ربك ولكن أكثر الناس لا يؤمنون ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أولئك يعرضون على ربهم ويقول الأشهاد هؤلاء الذين كذبوا على ربهم ألا لعنة الله على الظالمين الذين يصدون عن سبيل الله ويبغونها عوجا وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون أولئك لم يكونوا معجزين في الأرض وما كان لهم من دون الله من أولياء يضاعف لهم العذاب ما كانوا يستطيعون السمع وما كانوا يبصرون أولئك الذين خسروا أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون لا جرم أنهم في الآخرة هم الأخسرون إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وأخبتوا إلى ربهم أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون مثل الفريقين كالأعمى والأصم والبصير والسميع هل يستويان مثلا أفلا تذكرون ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه إني لكم نذير مبين ألا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم أليم فقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه ما نراك إلا بشرا مثلنا وما نراك اتبعك إلا الذين هم أراذلنا بادي الرأي وما نرى لكم علينا من فضل وما نرى عليكم علينا من فضل بل نظنكم كاذبين قال يا قوم أرأيتم إن كنت على بينة من ربي وآتاني رحمة من عنده فعميت عليكم أنلزمكموها وأنتم لها كارهون ويا قوم لا أسألكم عليه مالا إن أجري إلا على الله وما أنا بطارد الذين آمنوا إنهم ملاقو ربهم ولكني أراكم قوما تجهلون ويا قوم من ينصرني من الله إن تركتهم أفلا تذكرون ولا أقول لكم عندي خزائن الله ولا أعلم الغيب ولا أقول إني ملك ولا أقول للذين تزدري أعينكم لن يؤتيهم الله خيرا الله أعلم بما في الله أعلم بما في أنفسهم إني إذا لمن الظالمين قالوا يا نوح قد جادلتنا فأكثرت جدالنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين قال إنما يأتيكم به الله إن شاء وما أنتم بمعجزين ولا ينفعكم نصحي إن أردت أن أنصح لكم إن كان الله يريد أن يغويكم وربكم وإليه ترجعون أم يقولون افتراه قل إن افتريته فعلي إجرامي وأنا بريء مما تجرمون وأوحي إلى نوح أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون واصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون ويصنع الفلك وكلما مر عليه ملأ من قومه سخروا منه قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون فسوف تعلمون من يأتيه عذاب يخزيه ويحل عليه عذاب مقيم حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور قل نحمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول وما آمن معه إلا قليل وقال اركبوا فيها بسم الله مجراها ومرساها إن ربي لغفور رحيم وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال ونادى نوح ابنه وكان في معزل يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you for the recitation of the Quran. Now we would like to continue with the program. So if anyone from Virginia Tech could take control and sort of MC the program, that would be great.
Sure. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salamun alaikum, everybody. And taqabbal Allah alaikum jami'an. This is Muhammad Jawad, and I'm so glad here to be the moderator for tonight's discussion. And so again, this program is hosted by APSA at Virginia Tech. So alhamdulillah, we have had two different sessions before, and we talked a little bit about the APSA at Virginia Tech before. And I'm so delightful that we have again Dr. Saeed Kianpur for tonight's discussion. So before I go and start a conversation with Dr. Kianpur regarding the successful marriage, I want to just give you a very short brief or a description or the history how APSA at Virginia Tech formed. Again, we discussed about that like last week, but just I want to make it very short this time. So actually this fall is going to be the 5th year, or let's say the 5th anniversary of having APSA at Virginia Tech officially working. And I joined APSA here at 2017, but some of our brothers, they first established this program at 2015. They first started to gather around during the summer, and in the fall they officially established this organization. And interesting thing is that they were just 4 or 5 of like brothers that they knew each other, and they said Bismillah and they established the organization. And from the thing that I have heard from them, which is Dr. Kianpur is one of them, for their very first program that was in the fall, and it was Eid al-Ghadir, they had over 30 attendees, and that is incredible. So this is so interesting, and might be a good motivation in this way, that some of you might think that you are alone and you don't know anybody in your university if you want to go and establish a new APSA. But based on the experience that our brothers had here, they just said Bismillah, they went ahead, they didn't know like that much of each other, they just did it. And for the very first program, they had again more than 30 students from all different nationalities, different languages. And alhamdulillah, we are still having our program ongoing. So of course, the population of the events might go up and down in different situations, but I can tell that during these 5 or 6 years, alhamdulillah, we have had like regular weekly meetings such as Quran or Dua Kumail, like Tafsir, Nahjul Balagha, and we are still having that. We have had a few of Arba'in photography exhibitions, and during the Arba'in in Muharram or in Safar. And also we have had like Nurse Appreciation Day, that normally we go and we pass roses to the nurses in neighborhood hospitals, which is really interesting for them. And we have got so many positive feedback on that. And some other things like Hussein Day, or originally that was Water on Ashura. I think it has been 5 or 6 years that we have had that program, alhamdulillah, ongoing here and in so many other universities. So again, the idea is to have something, and to, if you feel the responsibility to have something and to do something, you can just start it. And I'm sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul-Bayt will help all of us to grow and to facilitate this process. And inshallah, it will result in having the Imam al-Hujjah, inshallah, day soon. So with that short description, I want to go ahead and again thank Dr. Said Kianpur for accepting to be the lecturer for tonight's discussion. So we had a program of successful marriage like last week. Originally, we had planned to have another event for tonight, but then we decided, based on so many feedback that we got and so many questions, that we couldn't go over during the last session. So we thought that it's good to have a new session, mostly for Q&A, but we're gonna have a short lecture by Dr. Kianpur first, and then inshallah we will go over the questions. I've got so many questions so far. I'm trying to categorize them and ask them. We ask you to go on, send your questions through the social media, but please feel free and ask your questions here in the chat. If you send it to me, and if you find my name, which is m.javad-javarian, if you send them to me through the Zoom, I will try to include that. And inshallah, again, we are having so many questions, but I will try to cover as much as we can. So Dr. Said Kianpur, Salamun alaikum, Bismillah.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Brother Javad, for inviting me again for this lecture tonight. And hopefully we can have a good conversation and also cover most of the questions that so far you've received, inshallah. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Okay, do you have my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so for the last week, we talked about different issues for those who are um, like looking for a spouse, and they want to be that process be Islamic process actually. So we talk about this self-identification, like those process that you need to go through in order to get to know yourself first, and also that of um, your family, in order to have a better idea, better knowledge about your characteristics, your personality traits. I suggest you to go, if you can find a psychologist, to take like a couple of psychometric tests like MMPI or NEO inventory, and also make a list of your family characteristics that can be a long list and can be accomplished through the time. Um, and then you can make a comparison between those that you have with the someone that you are going to be familiar with, to get to know that person. And then it gives you good tools, and also opportunity to get to know each other for really better. And then we talk about the proposal, like the questions that you need to ask, and I shared like the list of the questions that I had with you. So, and also you can add the questions like whatsoever that you think is good to add to that list. And also those questions are kind of broad question. When you ask a question, you need to probably come with some sub questions in order to get into the detail of that issue. Um, and and also we talk, I think, about the measurements. And yeah, so the what you need to measure, like the level of, for example, religiousness, like for example, the level of education, your ethnicity, or some other issues that you think that are important in order to get to know that person, and uh and feel that you are like a good match with each other and could fit into your priorities or whatever that you think that is important for your future life. um, and the fourth category that I wanted to share with you last session but didn't have enough time, and today I inshallah go through it very shortly, because we want to take care of the questions. Um, so it's a communication. So communication, we need to know that how communicate with others. It is not only between us, between me and my wife, for example, or my partner. It is between me and my parents, between me and my kids, between me and my like colleagues, friends, and whoever. So, um, but that communication, that kind of intimate communications, is usually within our spouse and families. So this is the first circle that we need to like locate all those close people in the first circle, and we need to know how to communicate with them effectively in order to avoid any type of conflict, or like any issue that may like give us some, I don't know, like an anxiety, depression, or some other stuff, or rise any problem in the future. So for this matter, I would like to talk about some it's called Guttman for Horsemen of Apocalypse. So there are four issues that Dr. Guttman was a professor at Washington State University. I'm not sure if he's still there or he retired, but I know that he participated in like many conferences and workshops. And also, I'm not sure if it's for the general population, but I know that for family therapy psychologists or scholars in the field, he has many workshop, and they are so knowledgeable and really good to have the chance to attend. So these kind of communication patterns that he came up with, it through the 30 years of research, and with, I think, for almost like more than 10,000 couples that he conducted the research on them. So one of one of these horses that is kind of very important in any communications. So now we're gonna talk. Our like goal is the relationship between the spouses. So criticism. Um, Criticism, actually, it seems like you state your complaint as an attack on other person. So what you hear is that you are not so perfect either. So I just target you. I just hint on you and say that, okay, you are not perfect because of what you did. Like, for example, let's say in the quarantine that we are all at home, I have some like clients that the couples, like, they are staying at home, and long day, and even specifically in the Ramadan or even before the Ramadan, they come and say that my husband is saying is keep telling me that why do you eat so much? Why don't you watch your weight? So, or like, this is like for example, the woman is saying that this is kind of my lifestyle through my life. So he was not at home to see me before this quarantine, and now that he's there, he's just, it seems that he's just observing me all day long when we wake up, through the day to the night, and just like criticizing me, like bombarding me with lots of criticism. And it seems that it just overwhelmed me. I cannot stand it anymore. And it just create more problems, conflicts, and may lead to some other issues in communication that we're going to talk about them. So basically, criticism, it, like, as I said, it's like you're not perfect. I'm the good one, and literally you are like saying that I'm pretty close to perfect, but you are kind of defective. And also it's kind of leading to escalation of the conflict. It's usually because another person just try to pull up a kind of a guard to protect him or herself um, against the criticism, and it can escalate the conflict. So there are some like antidotes that we can use without doing like criticizing someone. Like, one of them is complain without blame. We can complain. There is no um, kind of obstacle to not like saying that you shouldn't complain. You can complain, but it should be without blaming another person because of what he or she did or did not. And also use gentle startup instead of um, like shaping our bodies through, like, for example, pointing our fingers toward the person like this and using some negative words. We can use like some positive words and start really gently, and we can have like an introduction about something that we want to criticize or complain, and then gently and gradually jump into the core of the issue that we want to talk about. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And the second one is contempt. So contempt actually is the best predictor of divorce. Like, among those couples who come for family therapy or couple therapy, if I or like my colleagues, whoever, like a family therapist, just identify that type of the contempt, you can predict that this couple, if they continue, if they keep going this way, this couple is really more likely to get divorced in like next couple of weeks or next couple of months or in a year, for example. It depends on the severity of the issue or the kind of relationship that they have. And contempt is like mocking and acting superior to other person. So you just put yourself superior and put another person inferior, and you may like doing the criticizing when you are contempting the person, and just mimicking the person, or like doing like saying some disrespectful words that crush another person, break another person, break your like partner. So, and because of that, because you are actually targeting the core of that person, so we usually look for those people, or just we would like as a human being, we would like to communicate with those people who respect us, right? You don't like to be in a relationship that you don't feel respected. um, so the first, or the better, or the best antidote for this type of communication is respect. So although we have some like problems or disagreements over many issues, we shouldn't disrespect each other. We shouldn't like belittle each other. For any kind of like problems that whatever that we have, we need to keep that respect, and also build culture of appreciation. Like build the culture means that like the relational atmosphere, that atmosphere within the relationship and the context and the system needs to be appreciation, culture of appreciation for whatever that we do. Like Islamically, even, I don't want to like bring up some controversial issues, but like for example, for some men who criticizing or contempting their wives for some of the like duties, let's say duties that they may have at home, um, and for like cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids and stuff like that. Like Islamically, none of them are the obligations or duty or of the woman in the house. So Islamically, the man is in charge of everything, to providing everything. Even for breastfeeding the kids, the woman can charge the man that you need to pay for it. So, and there are some other things. So this culture of appreciation for whatever that we do at home, this is a kind of a favor that we are offering to another person, or offering to the system, to the family. So we need to appreciate all those efforts, and you know whatever that the another person, like for example, is doing or contributing to the family. um the third one is defensiveness. Defensiveness is kind of, you're not taking the responsibility for part of the problem. There is a conflict, there is a problem. So when you're not taking responsibility for that problem, it means that you are just trying to expose all the problems, or put all the problems, the responsibility of the problems on another party's the shoulder. So, and you are saying that, okay, this is not my fault, this is all your fault, I don't have any responsibility because you did that, and this, so, and this is not my fault, this is all yours. So even like for the antidotes, it's taking responsibility even for a small part of the problem, for the small part of the problem, and that really helps. And also kicking around the problem as a team. So a problem just occurred. Okay, so someone was like the one who probably initiated that problem, but you can work all together as a team to kick around that problem, to find a solution. Um, and that's very important also. And the fourth one, stonewalling, which is kind of, you may do a stonewalling because you don't want to make the problem worse, right? It seems like you are sitting on a chair, the person is criticizing you, is just telling, like yelling at you, and you're just looking on this like a sailing, or you are just looking out of the window, and you may like thinking about some other stuff. That person is yelling, but because you don't want to make that problem worse, you do not paying attention. You are in your own world. you are withdrawing to avoid conflict because you are overwhelmed. You don't want to deal with it anymore. But it can, like, the stonewalling can lead to very destructive patterns, which is so destructive, and can provide some other, like, create some other issues in the in the relationship. And the antidotes can be psychological self-soothing, like, for example, some of the things that you can um, like do as a self-soothing, like use conscious breathing at the moment, and just try to have, like, for example, deep breath exercises at the moment. As soon as the stress hits, you can immediately take a few deep, slow breathe, or like engage in positive self-talk to yourself. Like, tell yourself this is a transition, like a transient, like a situation, or I will find a best way to handle this. We're gonna find a solution for this. And or, like, for example, develop a witness state. You can, like, keep telling to yourself that, like, you are larger than fear. you know you are larger than this anxiety, that this like a problem. We're gonna find a solution for it. And instead of just sitting on a chair and looking at the ceiling or out of the window, um if you can, like, after you just try to calm yourself down, you can start, like, gently getting back to your partner, your spouse, and start talking very gently, and asking another person to calm down, and like have a discussion later on. Just postpone this, like, issue, this conflict. If they are, like, really hot and they cannot, like, come down, can postpone this issue to the later, like an hour later, like tomorrow. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. Let's stop this conflict here as it is, and then we're going to talk about it when we just calm down. Okay, so I will stop here, and then we're gonna go to take care of the questions. And sorry if it took kind of long. Um, yeah, brother Jawad, if you mind, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kiampur. So to let you know, we are having almost around 14 or 15 questions. So I'm not
Okay.
sure if we can cover all of them, but just to let you all know that I talked with Dr. Kiampur just before the session, and he was so kind, and he agreed that you can still send these questions through his social media on Instagram. So in case we couldn't cover all of the questions, just please keep in mind that we have that option as well. So let's start. So if you don't mind, I will try to combine the questions, those that are a little bit related to each other, so we can cover more. So for
Okay.
one thing, we were talking about long distance marriage last time, especially that some students are in one city and like the others are in the other cities. And you were talking about if you want to do that, you have to have a plan, you have to have some specific characteristics to handle that situation. So we received a question, and in this case, somebody has a job commitment in like to stay in US, and they have found a very good option, or a very good spouse who has like job commitment in Europe, and they have to stay like a year far from each other. So with that question, can you go a little bit on the practical solutions that people can have in order to handle this long distance marriage?
So if they cannot do anything, because we do marriage, we get married with someone in order to be with each other, right? To build up a relationship, and we need to be with each other from the very first, to feel like good about that marriage, good about that like relationship. So, but because of some issues, like for example, job commitments, like study abroad, or like blah blah blah, we cannot get together. We cannot be with each other. So, if they can, like I think last week I said, like every 2 or 3 months they make a plan to see each other. Like, for example, if the person is going to Europe and another one is in the US, so for like, for example, after 3 months, 2 or 3 months, one of them go to the Europe and then come back for like a week or 2 weeks, and then come back for the second time, like 3 months later, that person in Europe take off from his or her like a job, and then like for 1 week or 2 weeks come to the US to visit his or her partner. So, and then again for the third time, that one is in the North America, can go to the Europe. And during these days, I would suggest to not use text for like communicate for line communications, like or over some sensitive issues. You can use text to say, like, for example, good morning, darlings, or you can say like bonjour, comment ça va? You can say كيف حالك? You can say like خوبی چطوری? Or como está usted? Or, you know, like a different languages that I'm saying. So just to like greeting each other, saying good words to each other, starting the day with a positive attitude, you know, sending intimate, like a love emojis, like whatever that you're comfortable with, saying really good words, I love you, you know, all those kind of good words that you romantic kind of conversation that you can have, like to begin your day. And then through the day, also when you are at work or at university, you can also text each other and just ask about like, how are you doing, what are you doing, and stuff, like just very short. And then at the night when you both of you come back at home, you can arrange a time to have like a video call to each other, to like for 1 hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour. And also in the weekend also you can do that. And if something just raises up like a sensitive issue, do not communicate through text. It should be through like face to face. You cannot do that in person, but you can do face to face through the video chat. These are really important things that you need to do. And also through this kind of long distance relationship, some issue may raise up because we are not close to each other, because we would like to control each other, right? Like the spouses and the husband and wives usually try to control each other, to see that with whom you are going, to whom you are talking, you know, stuff like that. We are not close to each other. We are not with each other to control that part of the kind of relationship. And some negative thought may raise up, or like we get paranoid about like a work environment, like my spouse work environment in the classroom, or you know, the professor that you are like hanging out for, with the classmate that you are hanging out. These are really important to we just make another person sure and give that confidence that with whom I'm hanging out, where I'm going, you know, when I come back, like for example from work or from like a gathering with friends, you know, we need to just build up that trust, specifically at the beginning of the relationship. Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think you already addressed one of the other questions, so hopefully we are one down. So another question is, how would you comment on age difference between spouses? So is there any range that is recommended? Let's say having a minimum or maximum
Yeah,
difference?
there is like age range, like difference range that it is just a recommendation. It's not like obligation that it should be like that. Between 3 to 7 years is good that woman be younger than the man. Why? Because like biologically and also psychologically, women are like getting mature, like sooner get mature than men. So, and because of that, it's better to have like a girl who is like, for example, 20 years old, get married with someone like a boy who's like 20, between 23 to 27. at this kind of range, the level of maturity, like emotionally, intellectually, they are in the same kind of level. So, but it is not an obligation. It is just a recommendation. Even in some cases, a woman can be even older than men, but not more than like 3 or 4 or 5 years. But it can happen if they are matched with each other and there is no problem in their communication. Why not?
Okay, thank you. And just as a follow-up to that question, is there any like a starting age to like go and looking for the marriage? We're having a question from one of our brothers that they said how can they convince their strict parents so they let him like have to go look for the marriage in an earlier age like 24 or 25.
I wouldn't say 24, 25 is a kind of earlier age to go for looking for your spouse. It depends on the person. There is no like prescription that like exact prescription that would say like man should go like 25 and woman like 20 years old. No, it depends on the level of maturity, like in terms of like emotionally, intellectually, economically. Like it's really important that how you can afford your life. Like, are you able to live independently, like even before you getting married? So, are you independent from your parents? You can afford like everything, like a living cost, the living, staying on your feet to take care of everything, and then you want to bring someone else to your life. Can you take care of that? Can you afford it? So, these are really um, very important criteria that you need to consider. But like in terms of like intellectually and emotionally and financially, if you can afford it, even if you are 20 years old and you think that you feel that you need to have some sort of relationship like a marriage, go for it. So yeah, it all depends on the situation
So
that the person
apparently
has.
in this situation, he wants to convince his parents. So what would you suggest for that?
So yeah, first of all, he needs to know if he has everything, like specifically financially, if he can afford it. So if he can afford it, and if he um, intellectually and emotionally he thinks that he enough mature, he can go talk to his parents, like to see that what are those barriers or the obstacles or the reasons that they are not happy with this decision, and they can like have a discussion. And if um, I would suggest even like counseling. If he cannot convince them, can offer them to go to see like a psychologist, family therapist, to see that how they can kind of like have a like a constructive conversation over that issue.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question is, would you please talk about the best way for approaching a non-Muslim girl or guy who is potentially going to be a convert? And so they are talking about the difference in like the culture, because we know that most of them, if you consider like the North American people, they want to have at least 1 or 2 years, or let's say in this case more than 2 years, to stay together to get to know each other. So what can we do in that case, and do you recommend mut'a during this interval?
So it's a kind of a broad question and it's not clear some part of it. So if you are getting to know someone like a non-Muslim, and he or she, um, because you as a Muslim, I don't know if like as a Shia, if you want to get married with the non-Muslim girl, that girl needs to be a Muslim, right? Needs to convert to Islam before you're getting married. Otherwise, you want to do mut'a for 99 years. So, so it's a kind of the obligations that exist here, and you need to consider all those issues. Um, so if he or she already accepted the Islam, or So that's good. So you can spend the time to get to know each other. And also that person accepted Islam and he or she is trying to get to know more about Islam and the obligations, specifically between non-mahrams, with men and women and relationships and stuff like that. So it really facilitates the process to finalize that kind of relationship that you have. But if he or she is not Muslim, so you need to spend the time, I think, to introduce Islam through your action and word to that person, that finally convince him or her to accept Islam, and then talk about marriage. So that's a kind of a very kind of a difficult job to do. So yeah, I think I would recommend that person go to see a counselor. So for that, or if he thinks he can find like better like options somewhere else, and I would say go for it. Or if he think or she thinks it is worth it to spend that much of time. So yeah, so this is love. Do whatever that you can do to reach out to it.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question is that regarding this like process of getting to know each other, how much time would you recommend to spend before deciding for the marriage? And do you think of having a way of halal way to get to know each other apart from just talking?
So between between 3 to 6 months is an idle time that you probably need to get to know someone, requiring you to at least meet that person once a week. And through that session, like spend like more than 1 hour, like 2 or 3 hours. So let's say 2 to 3 hours a week, between 3 to 6 months. The halal way is like you just go out. You're not, I don't know, like the level of the religiosity. You're not holding hands. You're not kissing each other. You're not touching each other. So, but through this time, you can just hang out, going to the restaurant, to the coffee shop, with the supervision of the parents, of course. And then through this time, you can get to know each other, because you are all doing for, and these has kind of like some religious part that is relevant to the Islamic scholars to have comment on it. So I'm not in that like realm to have comment on it, like in terms of what is haram or halal. But because it's for the purpose of marriage, so and you need to get to know that person, I think yeah, if you can just do not like pass those red lines, the Sharia, that would be okay to spend the time together.
Thank you very much. So the next is, would parents suffer in the afterlife if their kids do not get married?
So this question goes to the Islamic scholars. So I don't know. So inshallah not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So as a single, I hope so. So okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is, so we are having this discussion, and we have heard that some families that like their children are born and raised here. So let's say first or second generation, sometimes they have this mindset that if their kids want to get married, so the spouse should be also somebody in very similar situation and not to be an immigrant, for example. And because of so many things such as like permanent residency and those kind of things. So do you see any thing, how would you comment on that? And in case that there would be a good option, let's say from immigrants or something like that, how can they handle the situation in a way that parents' concerns would also be addressed?
So I think like being an immigrant and being second generation, someone who's born here, is not like per se. It's not like like a like a obstacle to prevent them to get to know each other and finally get married. So uh, I think it's matter of the time that they can spend with each other to see if they are a good match with each other. So there are lots of cases, like among our friends, like colleagues, or like around us, that we can see that a second generation woman is getting married with an immigrant man. So, and there is no problem between them. So it depends on the priority of the families, uh, the uh, the value system of the families, and also the way that they communicate with each other, specifically regarding the immigration issue. Like if they are afraid of the person who is coming to proposing to the girl for the marriage, like if they don't know if it's for the marriage or it's for the green card or for the PR. So you can solve this problem through communication, through spending time and getting to know that person, instead of just labelizing that person and saying at first that he wants the green card, because of that he comes to us. So you can spend time, you can talk, you can, communicate whatsoever, like whatever time that it requires. If it requires, I don't know, like 6 months, a year, to talk and get to know that person, spend the time. um and yeah, so, and you can use like different approaches to get to know that person.
Great. Thank you very much. And so far we have been discussing, like, once you find your right one, then how to talk and what to talk and what should be considered in order to, like, go into this process and then resulting in the marriage. But we have this recommendation, and it says one recommendation would be to follow up with something that might bring the interested youth who are looking for a spouse together. So it says that many in our Muslim community, they are struggling with finding the right one. And so we are seeing so many like sessions being offered by different organizations, but it's hardly anyone who is willing to take the action, like the practically, and bring people together. So do you have any comment on that?
So I'm really happy that someone bring up that issue. Yeah, exactly. This is an issue in the community, and we need to address that issue. Fortunately, um, two main organizations. It's not APSA. Two main organizations. One, KISA Saba in San Jose, California, and MSA PSG. These two organizations, they are working. There is a like a two teams from these two organizations. They got together and they are working on a project. They are just trying to come up with the website or a big database in which we just try to have those who are like the marriage candidates in there and try to help them to find their spouse. So this is the ongoing project that we are working on it. I'm also a part of this project, and just keep us in your prayer that inshallah the process goes well, and the consequence and the result inshallah be beneficial for the community. So just have it in your mind that this is a process, this is a project that we are working on, and we are really care about it and very kind of passionate about this project.
Thank you very much. I can see that we have already exhausted our time. Just a question from Sister Gazina. Do I have time for one more questions, or we have to conclude the session? If any from brothers, if I have time for one more question. Okay, so I'll ask since I'm not getting any responses. It says, based on the teaching of Islam, is it allowed to refer to psychologists with respect to our relationship issues? Or should we deal with it ourselves according to psychological point of view and also religious point of view?
I think absolutely is kind of recommended even in Islam. If you have any problem and you cannot solve it, you need to look for like an expert or someone in that field to help you to overcome the problem. The shura, mashwara, like what is like even in Quran it's mentioned, and also in ahadith, and even in Nahjul Balagha, Imam Ali mentioned a couple of times that someone who's not seeking mashwara is gonna be die. It's gonna be like kind of destroyed because he's not seeking for like mashwara, for shura. And even in Quran it's mentioned that if between a couple something happened, like a conflict between them, like even Quran is suggesting a kind of a strategy that bring someone from each side, like someone like the old guy, it's like a white bread guy, a beard guy, like from each families, to conceal them, to find a solution. So yeah, absolutely, it's recommended in Islam.
Okay, thank you very much. There is one more question that I don't have time to ask, and it was, I think apparently one of sisters was talking about the breastfeeding that you just talked about. So just one thing is that if there are more questions, and I try to combine again all the questions, but I will share Dr. Kiampur's Instagram ID right after the dua. So in case that any questions is not covered, or if you have more questions, again, he said that he's welcoming the new questions that goes through, so you can like direct message him in the Instagram, and hopefully you will get responses. Just before I pass it to Sister Gazina for the wrapping up and also for the dua, I want to ask you to stay right after the dua and fill out a poll, and hopefully we can get your feedback after that. With that, I want to thank Dr. Kiampur one more time. Thank you very much
Absolutely.
for your time, and also thank you all for attending, and I want to pass it to Sister Gazina.
Thank you so much for this insightful event today. We would like to end with Dua Faraj. So if anyone from Virginia Tech would want to recite, like Brother Muhammad Jawad, that would be great. But before we do that, we would like to do the poll. So if you guys can, just make sure to rate this event based off the 3 questions that are provided. If you can't see the poll, then just click the green words that say poll in progress, and then you can see it. And there's just 3 questions where you rate one from 1 to 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. Also bear in mind that that we cannot, as hosts, we cannot see what you chose or what you voted. We can just see the percentage of, like, you know, how much each question, how many votes for each one it got. So your results are like, the results are confidential, and so is your like participation. So if everyone's done with it, we can do Dua Faraj now. So Brother Muhammad Jawad, if you would like to recite. Or if anyone else wants to, that's fine too.
Sure, I'll do it. Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that's it for today. Thank you everyone for attending, and we would like to see you at our next event. Assalamu alaikum.